We've had our hands on Warzone 2 now for a few days, and we've already got a solid grip on what weapons are performing best in Al Mazrah. So today on Warzone Loadout, we're taking a look at the 5 best long-range options in the meta right now that are outperforming all of the competition. We've actually got a variety of weapon types to cover today, mainly because the meta is actually fairly balanced in Warzone 2 right now, which is awesome. So whatever your playstyle, you can hope to find something right for you from this video. Let's begin today with the Marksman 5.56. This is a really reliable and easy to use gun, since when you build it correctly, it shoots incredibly straight with really minimal bounce. The only problem that experienced players might have is that it lacks the punch that some of the other long-range options have that we're going to cover in the video today, but it's still a great beginner-friendly loadout that I'd recommend people try out. The Schlager 3.4x is our current favorite optic for long range in Warzone 2. The sight on it is really clean, and there's far less bounce to it than the VLK 4x that some people are using. We can't actually change reticles at the moment in Warzone 2, so the default reticles are really important, and the Schlager 3.4x reticle is really good. We tune this up for max ADS speed, which is a no-brainer, and then we move that eye distance all the way to the furthest far value. This massively helps with visual recoil while spraying with the weapon. The Lachmann Wrap Barrel is our next attachment, which greatly boosts the long-range capabilities of the Lachmann 5.56 with buffs to bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil control. We're then going to push the long-range potential even further by tuning the gun for max recoil steadiness and damage range. Next, we're going to add on the Echoline GSX muzzle. Previously, we were recommending suppressors that would actually boost the damage range, things like the Harbinger D20 on a lot of assault rifles, but the problem with those muzzles is they heavily slow down the gun to a pretty hard to use amount. The Echoline is a suppressor that keeps us off the map still, it helps a ton with recoil, and the con to damage range is honestly pretty negligible. For tuning on this muzzle, we put all of our focus into recoil smoothness and bullet velocity. The muzzle and the barrel combination here is what guarantees this gun's potential at long range with really smooth recoil. For the underbarrel, the VX Pineapple is the cream of the crop, bringing some of the best recoil improvements across the board of all the underbarrels in the game, and even helping with hipfire accuracy for those times where you get pushed unexpectedly by a team up close. The tuning is going to be really simple here. We're just going to max out the ADS speed and leave the Y-axis tuning as neutral, since hipfire walking speed and hip recoil control are equally as not important as each other for our long range build. Finish up the build with the 60 round mag. This is still Warzone, so the large mags are necessary for potentially taking out multiple enemies in a squad without the need to reload. Your overall mobility and speed are nerfed as a result of this, which is exactly why we recommend that quick suppressor that we mentioned earlier. No tunings available here, so let's move on to our next weapon. The EBR-14 is basically the second coming of the DMR meta from Warzone 1. I know, scary, but it just downs enemies in a couple of shots, and it feels way too snappy for a Marksman Rifle. Honestly, in the right hands, it's probably the strongest weapon in the meta for long range right now, but it's definitely more difficult to use than some of the full auto options we recommend on this list, so that's why it ends up further down the list. For the EBR, we're starting off by chucking on the Luca Bandera Scope, which is perfect for this rifle as it features a clean 3.7x for your general long-range use, but also a really handy 8x toggle for tapping people at long range. You'll find that when we've got this thing fully kitted, the bullet velocity makes it feel like hit scan at range, so that 8x zoom is absolutely deadly. Tuning on this is like we have for most of our optics. We're maxing out the ADS speed and moving the eye position to the furthest. The 22-inch Boremaster barrel is the longest barrel we can pick, so it's an obvious choice for our long-range build on the EBR. It gives nice buffs to recoil control and bullet velocity, only nerfing the mobility of the weapon, which doesn't feel too bad for a Marksman Rifle. To tune that barrel up, let's bring in the recoil steadiness to the max, along with damage range. That recoil steadiness is crucial in situations where you need to fire off shots really fast, potentially someone who's a little bit closer, so don't sleep on recoil control on Marksman Rifles. Move on to the Husher 65 silencer. It's great for the improved bullet velocity and recoil without completely nerfing the mobility in comparison to a lot of the other muzzles. And then we can tune it up for maximum ADS speed as we start to bring back some of the mobility to this gun. And we also max the aiming idle stability for stalking out targets with that 8x. We then go for the rear grip next. We're going to be using the FSS Gen 7 grip. At this point in the build, we've got an insane long range weapon in terms of damage and range, but this grip helps massively improve how quickly you can actually aim and get on target, because it buffs the sprint to fire speed and the ADS speed. We push that even further with our tuning. We're maxing out our ADS speed and our aiming idle stability. Finally, as usual, we need to give it its biggest mag, the 20-round mag in this case, so we ensure that we're not running out of ammo in those extended fights. Okay, we're getting into the big leagues now with the Kastov 762. This gun is actually really similar to the old Cold War AK from Warzone 1 in the fact that it's incredibly versatile and it packs a massive punch. This is the kind of gun that you're going to see run in many different loadouts of different styles, and if other meta weapons that are coming up later in the list receive a nerf, you can expect this to be right at the top. The Schlager 3.4X optic is still the best choice here for our long-range AR. If the VLK 4X suits you better, or you just don't have the Schlager unlocked, then the VLK will do just fine. This is just what we recommend as our personal preference. Once again, we're tuning this up for maximum ADS speed, and we're moving that eye distance all the way to far to keep our aim snappy as possible with the least visual recoil. The Cast 10 584mm barrel buffs the bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil control of the Kastov, making it hit even harder than usual, and it's more than worth the loss to some of our mobility. We're then further pushing the long-range potential of this gun with maxed out recoil steadiness and damage range in our tuning for the barrel, making the weapon even more deadly. Next to add is once again the Echoline GSX. Exact same reasoning here as with the Marksman 556. The Echoline keeps us off the map, helps out our recoil nicely without slowing us down to a halt like some of those other suppressors. For tuning on the muzzle, we're focusing on recoil smoothness and bullet velocity, making sure they're both maxed out to give us maximum power in the Kastov's range capabilities. The underbarrel is going to be the VX Pineapple again to seal the deal with top tier recoil improvements across the board, with tuning set up to simply max out the ADS speed. We're not touching that Y-axis. And as usual, finishing off the build with a bigger mag size, the 40-round mag in this case. No need to explain the reasoning here, and there's no tuning available here, so that's the Kastov build finished. Now, seriously, if this weapon didn't exist, I would be all over the Kastov 762 we just made, but unfortunately, it does. The TAC 56 is the king of all ARs right now in Warzone 2, and many would call it the best gun in the game overall as well. It's just so versatile, so easy to use, and the TTKs are incredible at pretty much any range. It's just overall the most reliable option for long range right now. If you've been watching the rest of the video and you haven't skipped anything so far, you'll recognize this setup pretty well by now. We're starting off with the Schlager 3.4X again. It's the optic of choice that we like. As I said before, if you don't have this unlocked or you simply prefer the VLK 4X, then use that instead. And we're tuning it up the same as we have throughout the video, max ADS speed and furthest eye position. The Tundra Pro barrel is pretty much the same as the other long barrels we've been recommending for the ARs so far, with buffs to bullet velocity, damage range, and recoil control, so it's the obvious choice for the TAC 56 here. The only difference here to the other long barrels is the tuning, where we are maxing out the damage range and then we're leaving the Y-axis, because this gun already shoots straight enough. We don't need added recoil steadiness. We're sticking with the Echoline GSX muzzle, keeps this AR really versatile, keeps it mobile, keeps us off the map, everything we really need for that long range AR. We're then tuning the suppressor once again for maximum recoil smoothness and bullet velocity. It really seals the deal with the build overall. The VX Pineapple is the next addition. Again, gives that top tier recoil improvement that we need across the board, as we've already discussed. With the tuning for this, we are setting it up for maxed ADS speed. We're not touching the other axis at all. And lastly, one of the best things about this gun, it has a 60-round mag available, which is one of the reasons it stays on top of the Kastov 762 in the AR category. That extra 50% mag capacity is just amazing. If you have good aim and positioning, you can just wipe out squads with ease and you're never feeling like you're running out of ammo. The last gun today is the RPK, and whilst it might not be as versatile as the AR options, it is definitely the statistically best overall long-range gun in the game. Being an LMG, this gun is obviously going to hit like a truck, that's no surprise, but because it doesn't feature a belt-fed magazine like things like the RAL LMG that I've seen people using, it still actually handles like an assault rifle, and players can remain pretty mobile on the map, which is incredibly important in Warzone 2. For the optic on the RPK, we're actually going to recommend the VLK 4X over the Schlager. because this gun is purely focused on long range rather than mid to long range like the assault rifles. If you do prefer the Schlager overall and you have it unlocked, then feel free to use it, but we do prefer the VLK here. Tuning, however, remains the same as previously. We're maxing out the ADS speed and the furthest eye position. No barrel is going to be needed for this LMG, so we'll move on to the muzzle. We do still need a suppressor, and our personal favorite is the Polarfire S. Because we don't have the barrel buffing the range, the damage range improvements of this muzzle are incredibly important, along with the buffs to bullet velocity and recoil. For tuning it up, just max out the recoil smoothness and also max out the bullet velocity. Probably getting bored of it by now, but the VX Pineapple is once again included for the much needed recoil improvements, especially on an LMG firing off a ton of bullets. Tuning is once again just going to be maxing out the ADS speed, not touching the other axis. For even more recoil control, the heavy support stock is amazing. It makes such a difference to the long-range beaming potential of the RPK, and with no need for a magazine, we're able to fit this into our build nicely. It also allows us to tune it up for a nice bonus to ADS speed and aiming idle stability, which both feel great on this gun. Our final attachment for this build is going to be the Demo X2 grip, a last bit of a push on that recoil control, and it tames the beast, making this gun the best long-range gun in Warzone. Just like the stock, we can tune this for even more great boosts in ADS speed and aiming idle stability, leaving us with an LMG that beams at range but also feels almost as snappy to use as an assault rifle. And there we go, guys, the top 5 best meta long-range options for Warzone 2 right now. If you have enjoyed the video and want to see more loadout suggestions in the future as the meta changes, as we get new patches, then be sure to subscribe for updates to new videos as soon as they come out. Also, leave a like, leave a comment below if there's any guns that we haven't recommended here that you guys are using for long range, or if there's any guns you want us to cover builds for in the future. Thanks very much, guys. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.